Hey Teachable Tribe, Morgan here, and today I am very excited to have Danny from Mirasee with us. Danny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Morgan, thank you for having me. I'm as you said, the CEO of Mirasee. I'm the creator of the Course Builders Laboratory and the, best-selling author of the leading book about online courses and education, Teach and Grow Rich.
Yes, and we're so excited to have you. Thank you for joining us. First things first, kind of a broad question. Why did you decide to start an online business in the first place?
So that's an interesting question. I've been an entrepreneur I like to say, for longer than my adult life. I quit school when I was 15 to start my first business. So why start a business? That was always the default. A lot of people, it's like, they need a reason to be an entrepreneur as opposed to having a job. This was always the default. I would need the reason to go get a job. It would just, that would be weird to me.
Very cool.
Why an online business? Why the current business? It's a funny story because my background is building, let me rephrase, my background is trying to build, bigger funded venture-backed tech startups. And the last one that I tried to build, this was 2007, 2008. We raised a bunch of money, and then the markets crashed. It fell apart all around me. I walked away from that with about $250,000 in debt. And that's financially devastating. As any entrepreneur who's watching this, know each of yourself in a business that you're looking to build. When it falls apart that way, it's like going through a really bad breakup. It's just really emotionally tough, and so you're not ready to go out there and start dating right away. And so, as I was looking for, well, what should I do next? I was looking for, the online business I kind of gravitated towards. I liked the idea that I could do it on the side. I didn't have to raise much money. The stakes were lower. It was more casual. So it was basically my rebound business. But it worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that you were able to build from what wasn't a so stellar situation and make what you have now. Mirasee's so cool. So as of recent, what are big projects you've been working on?
Well, the thing that's really top of mind for me is Teach and Grow Rich. It just came out in second edition. So I published the first edition September of 2015, and it was very well received, a couple hundred 5-star reviews, which I'm very gratified by. But it was very much a manifesto. It was like my best ideas and thoughts on the topic, and I published it quickly, self-published, because it was timely. I wanted to get it out there. And over the course of a couple of years and tons of reader feedback and working with thousands of aspiring course builders, I just had a lot more to say. And so the second edition is literally 3 times as long. It's, there's a lot more meat on the bones, and it just came out. So that's all of my focus and attention.
Oh, that's awesome. So who is that product built for?
Teach and Grow Rich is designed for anyone who is intrigued and interested in the idea of building and selling online courses as a way of generating income through impact. That's it.
Very cool. Okay, so now kind of bouncing off that, why online courses for you? What drew you to that sort of platform as opposed to maybe like blog posts or, YouTube videos or something like that?
Well, it's not mutually exclusive at all. We do publish content on our blog and podcast and YouTube, etc. But there's a difference between, a key distinction I actually make in the book is the difference between information and education. Both are important, both are valuable, but they serve different purposes. Information is great for expanding people's horizons, showing them what's possible they didn't know before, integrating new knowledge into existing expertise. It is not good at taking people from a level of capability to a higher level. Information alone can't affect that kind of transformation. For that, we need education. And information is typically cheap or free. Education commands a premium. So information is something that we share a lot of, but it can only take people so far. And if we're going to take responsibility for the success of our community, as a leader should, then you need to provide a richer experience. And that means either working with them intensively through a private coaching, mentoring, consulting capacity, which doesn't scale, or designing an educational experience that does.
That's awesome. I've never heard anyone make that distinction, but that makes so much sense. I really like that a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. That's going to stick with me. I like that.
You might like my book then.
Yeah, I might. When you were getting started on your whole journey for your businesses, Were there any consistent struggles that you found yourself having to deal with and overcome?
It's a really interesting question because I find that life keeps bringing you the same struggle until you figure it out. And then that stops being a struggle. So life brings you new struggles. And that's how life is, as long as you're growing, as long as you're, taking on things that you haven't done before. So I can't point to any one thing because, I've been fortunate enough to experience enough things that come with a wide variety of challenges.
Yeah. Well, very cool. And so kind of on the opposite of struggles, what have been the coolest, I guess, success stories for you, or any moments where you're like, this is actually working and this is a real thing? Was there ever a light bulb moment like that?
There's a lot of little light bulb moments like that. So, again, speaking to kind of the psychology of being an entrepreneur involves a lot of failure. It involves taking on things that are hard, that haven't been done before. And what that means is that, if you're dreaming big enough, your failure rate's going to be pretty high. And that's not a bad thing. That's just, par for the course. What that leads to is that, eventually you've kind of done it long enough that you have a good ratio of successes to failures. But when you're just starting out, it's mostly just failures. Right? You have a vision for what you can create, but it's not really there yet. And what I found is a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, you kind of develop this need for validation. So when something does work, there's like an internal voice that's like, aha, I told you, I knew I could do it. And so we latch on to all the little wins as to yes, it's working. I'm on the right path. But sometimes it's big things, sometimes it's really little things, but it's important to celebrate all of those wins.
Yeah, very cool. There's kind of like that motto, I guess, you've got to fail to succeed. And I think a lot of people let the early failures keep them from succeeding. So
the way I like to look at it is failure is only failure if it happens in the last chapter. Otherwise, it's a plot twist. So you just have to keep that perspective.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Now, I'm sure there are a million things you can think of, but is there anything that really stands out as the best part of having your own business?
It's the freedom to do the things that you care about and that matter to you. And part of that is about lifestyle design. And for some people that means, living out of a suitcase, traveling the world. I have small children. That's the last thing I want. For me, it means that, I can go home in the middle of the day and play with my kids if that's what I want to do. I live in Montreal, where the weather is very extreme, depending on the time of the year. So, when it's winter, I'll stay in, I'll work, because what else am I going to do? But in the summer, it's beautiful, and I can take off work and take my kids and go to the park. And I love that I can do that. It's also in terms of the actual work, right? I get to decide what work I want to do and who I want to work with. It's such a privilege to be able to do work that you find meaningful to deliver, and that you're doing it for people who you believe in what they're trying to do. You appreciate the interactions with them, and they appreciate what you're bringing to the table. So those are some of the highlights.
That sounds awesome. I know a lot of people, dream of living their lives like that, and maybe they want to get started creating online businesses, but don't necessarily know how to go about it. Do you have any advice that can be general or specific on how people can maybe start being successful online?
Yeah, the key is to get started, right? People are afraid that they're going to get started and they're going to stumble and they're going to fail, and that's par for the course. There's a quote, I'm sorry, I forget who said it, but it's that, if at first you don't succeed, you're running about average. And that's important to keep in mind, right? You need to skin your knees a little bit. You need to get some of those scrapes on your way. So just get out there, try something. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Learn from it and try something again. The biggest difference that I see between the people who ultimately build something meaningfully successful and people who don't is that the people who do have a bias towards action, and not if, but when they stumble, they pick themselves up and they keep on going.
Very cool. I like that advice a lot. I think that perseverance is what really makes people successful in the end. And to kind of just wrap things up, big picture, is there anything exciting that you're working on? Any big plans for the future?
I'm always pushing to reach more people, to refine and improve my message. I talk to students sometimes who are like, oh, look, you've built so much, you're so successful. And, I've been fortunate to have had some level of success, and I'm very grateful to have a team of people working for me and to work with a lot of students who are doing really great things, building and selling courses, following my methodologies. But when I look at the grand scheme of things, at the opportunity in the world for impact, I've done like this much of it. So we're always pushing much harder to grow and reach and impact more people. And the way that we do that is working with students, people who have a big part of why I'm excited about teaching people how to build and sell courses is that it's the first domino, right? I get to knock over that domino that empowers other people to knock over their dominoes. And so I just want to keep doing more of that.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for interviewing with us. This was a great interview. You have so many little nuggets of advice. I just loved everything you said. So again, thank you for your time.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.